Good evening, good night, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. Welcome to Odessa, the Holy Land. On this night in particular, we find ourselves with the Ventru known as Alistair, who is currently walking towards the southern forest outside of the city. He's going to meet with someone, well, a man, a creature he had just met the night before, a Nosferatu by the name of Volotej Zura, the Wolf Brother, as it were. Volotej is not a city Nosferatu. He likes the open air, and he's decided to set up his haven in the southern forest, away from all the hubbub of the city. Alistair has decided to visit him on this night, and while walking through the southern forest, well, not the largest forest in the world, and it is very easy to navigate on the roads. He knows that Volotej lives off the beaten track. He lives deeper. And as he and, well, are your ghouls with you?
No, they'll be in my domain, mainly with Corin, with Juno, and make sure she's safe, since I'm pretty sure I can take care of myself.
All right. Well, Alistair, as you're walking through the forest, it's very dense, foliage all over, very cramped feeling. It's not like it's very different from the forest that you have maybe been through before, the cultivated ones, as it were. The peasants use them mostly, but it seems that this forest has grown wild. It is not easy to walk through. There are branches all over the ground. You hear like bees and flies buzzing around. Just sorts of just nature has truly been untouched here. No one has really been able to cultivate this in a very long time. And as you're walking through this dense forest, you don't see any light anywhere. Like the light of the moon is guiding you, but it isn't that much. What are you thinking?
Well, he did say he very much care to be with nature, so I don't much care for the lack of lighting. And at this point, he's just kind of taking in the environment. It's not that he's afraid of the dark, but knowing himself, it's like, well, Voltage might be able to see in the dark, but I can't. Eh.
Well, when you think that, I'm going to say you do notice something off in the distance, a very faint light. You can only see a very faint light, and that's truly about it. But I'm guessing you begin to approach this light.
Yes.
As you do, you're trudging over the fallen branches, careful not to possibly step in any wasp hives. And as you do, you begin to approach closer and closer and closer until you finally you see this in view. You see this little hut in your view, just in a very, very small clearing. Small furnace out in the front, and it appears beneath those stone steps, a small fire is blaring. You do not see anyone around, though.
Do I need to make a Volshek roll for the fire, or is it small?
No. It's a small contained fire, and you're not up by the house actually.
Okay.
Yeah, you're not that close. But as you walk up here, just make me a perception, just a simple perception. I'll say awareness roll.
Perception awareness. That's 3 dice.
Yeah, just roll that.
Yep.
Should I roll it on here?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I still can't use that app because the lack of webcam.
Oh, well, you do notice this. We got a 9 in there. You notice something around like the darkness from the house. Like you can see like the small strands of light coming from from beneath those stones, and it illuminates two figures that are walking around the side of the house. These figures appear to be walking on all fours, and they don't appear to be dogs either. And let me find this picture. I think I had it saved down here. It's two wolves, though, as you can immediately see that. It's two very large wolves, but they don't look like they're native to this forest at all. They look like they are possibly, well, you don't know for sure. If you make, I don't know, maybe an intelligence animal ken roll, you can possibly determine what origin these are. You want me to roll it again?
No, actually, you can't see my rolls, but I got the device to roll for me. And
oh, okay.
They're all. I only have a roll of 3, and they all came up as 2s.
You have no idea of what origin these wolves are, but they do not. You know for a fact they don't look native. Mm. Yes, they are beginning also to approach you, and they don't look very happy, to say the least. Like they are, like one of them is growling a bit.
I get on one knee and put my hand out, palm down, and just wait for them.
You okay? You wait for them. Well, I found the picture. Good. They do begin to approach you. These two right here. Ignore the snow. And just animal ken plus charisma.
Oh. I botched.
You botched. All right. One of them sniffs your hand, and they recoil in disgust upon smelling you, and they both begin to growl. You can see their fangs. One appears to be licking their lips, but as they appear to be ready to pounce on you, you hear from off like to the side of the house, like coming from like the forest. You hear, "Bjork, Karl, what's wrong?" And the two wolves immediately turn, and you see Volotej. Now he is coming out of the forest with a large pack made of, appears to be like a basket, like kind of strung to his back almost, filled with like twigs and sticks and all sorts of different pieces of strewn about wood. He's actually not wearing his the coat he usually wears, the tunic. He's just literally just not completely naked, but he has a pair of pants on. But other than that, he's got nothing else on, and he's just carrying these through here. And you see him in his very beastly splendor, walking up, and he then sees you and says, "Alistair."
Hey, hello, Voltage. He says it kind of a nervous voice. I wanted to say hello. I don't know if your friends are happy for me to be here.
Bjork, Karl, and they don't respond at first, but then you kind of hear him almost in another voice, almost a voice like an animal almost. He kind of snarls at them like a wolf, and they immediately back off. And they go sit down in by one of the corners of the house, and he does that snarl again, and they stop looking at you, and they keep their heads down, like they're kind of like a child being scolded by a mother or a father. And they just put their heads down, and and they turn away from you and Volotej. I apologize for them. The very territorial creatures they can be. But if they start doing that again, just let me know.
Thank you for your kindness. Was that the animalism discipline?
Yes.
Hmm. Okay, very interesting. I I've never seen it used before.
Eh, I have to use it many times to communicate with the creatures of the wilds. The beast's speech is the beast's speech is one of the most powerful things in our arsenal, in my eyes. It's strong. The voice is always stronger than the sword.
Well, it very much can be.
No, it's good to see you, though. I'm very happy you took the time to come out here. Here, sit, and he grabs two stools from nearby, and he sets them down. He also finally takes the basket off, and he sets the basket down, and you see on his back something very odd. His entire back is covered with like matted fur, but well, not well, you've seen the matted fur actually across most of his back before, but not his back, but his body. But and I mean, the hair on his back isn't like matted, and it's not completely disgusting. His back is almost silver. Like the fur on his back is completely silver. It's like a very odd sight to witness. And he just starts setting the twigs down. You see him. He begins from a distance. He actually begins throwing them into that fire that's going under the house. And you probably don't know why he's doing that, like why he's lighting a fire under this small hut, but he's just throwing like the sticks and the twigs in. And finally he again from a distance he sort of pushes a stone forward, kind of in front of where the fire the opening in the fire is blaring, and to slightly close it. And he sits down at one of the stools in front of you, kind of very strong and sturdy stools. You notice he says, "So, welcome to my abode."
Alistair has a very much confused face, kind of thinking about the sight he just saw of you putting the sticks in the flames, and he responds with, "You're not scared of it?"
Oh, the fire. Yeah, I am. We all fear fire, but it has to be done for my house. I have to dry the floors again. The entire thing is made out of clay and mud. Had to put in a new layer tonight, so I have to dry it again. I try and keep away as much as possible. It's sad that fire is one of the banes of our existence. But it is the bane of man as well.
But unfortunately for our condition, it affects us greatly than man. Man is not afraid to deal with it. Us kindred don't even prefer the sight of it, even for our own vision.
True. I have to be around. I guess it's just I've built up enough courage to be around it for longer periods of time. He kind of, as he says that though, he kind of pushes the stool forward, and he starts kind of rubbing his back, like kind of patting it down, like because of the heat coming off from his house.
You're an interesting man. I came by to wish to further understand the city. I also came with gifts.
Gifts?
Oh yes, very much so. I recall that you and such as I can still partake of food. And he goes through his pack and pulls out a small loaf of bread that has all variances of herbs and oils on it. My mother is very much into baking, and I had never wished to turn down her meals despite my condition. And I thought you'd at least like to try some.
Yes. Let me go grab a table. And he stands up and he says, "Also, I'll get the good chairs instead of these little stepping stools." And he walks around the corner of his house, and he comes back in one hand carrying two large, sort of, I don't know what I guess it'd be oak wood around here, but I'm unsure. But I don't know what the trees of Turkey, like the native trees are, but sort of oak and wood chairs, strewn together with what appear to be not twine, but thatch. And in the other hand, he's like carrying a large table. Just in one hand, he's carrying it, and he sets it down, puts the two chairs down, and invites you to sit. He also, at this point, has grabbed he has grabbed a shirt and also a bucket of water, and you can see that he is cleaning his hands with what appears to be a small bit of animal fat.
Grazie. And he walks forward onto the chair, and he pulls off where he took the bread out of the sack. He brings out a small cloth and puts the bread on top of that with a knife.
Voltage sits. You also notice on the table he has lots of scrolls of parchment. You notice that just have that were like on the table when he set it down. A few of them may have fallen off, and he just picked them back up and he set them to the side. But he also grabs some bowls and small older looking wooden plates and sets them down as well. And say you probably have some cloths. I've got a few points in resources, so he's got a pretty decent amount of things in his possession. He sets it all down, and he kind of just looks the bread over. What exactly did it look like again?
It's a very small piece, knowing that we can't digest food enough to serve two people. It's relatively rounded, so that it has different herbs, and it looks oiled, like it was covered in something first before the herbs were put on top of it.
Well, he just awaits you to cut it. That's all.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to be rude.
No, that's perfectly fine. He cuts it in half and serves him the first piece.
He takes it and he says in another language. He just says something. You don't understand what it is, but you could probably guess it's probably a thank you of some kind. It sounds kind of rough, maybe very northern or maybe Eastern European sounding. Don't know what language. Unless you have any form of Slavic, I don't think you could understand what it means.
No, I have just the merit natural linguist, but Slavic was not the case. I have Spanish, French, Italian, English, and Arabic, I believe.
All right. Well, yeah, it's probably a thank you, though. You think it's the way he articulated it, and he takes a bite out of it. He tastes it, and you see, he chews a bit, but he stops. Kind of see him move, you could see his tongue moving around, in his very wrinkly cheek around his wrinkly cheeks, and and you see him swallow. He says, "Very good, very good."
Alistair starts chewing his after he gets starts taking a bite of his bread after Voltage has, and he says, completely a bit uncouthly while he's chewing it, like my mother's very good.
Yeah, she's a very good baker. Very, very good. I find it's good to see another who can actually partake of the delicacies of man still.
And he says this in actually kind of a very sad tone. I don't know what I would do if I couldn't. It'd be very hard for me.
Mm-hmm.
It still is. Just because we can still taste it and not regurgitate it quickly does not change the true satisfaction of eating.
Yes, but it does leave out one more disgusting bit that I will stop speaking of. We are at a dinner table. Apologize. Living out here, I sometimes do forget my manners sometimes.
No, it's particularly fine. My siblings aren't always the cleanest of the bunch either. Nor my mother.
Well, it's hard to beat usually my kind in being unclean, but if I try and stay as clean as possible, at least I don't have to slink off to those catacombs or anywhere where the filth runs. I find that I don't see the point of doing that. There's an entire forest outside of the city, and I don't understand why only the gangrel make use of it. I know it is hard to live out here sometimes, but I think it would suit my kind well. Sadly, some of the only other few members of my clan that I've found living in the forest, well, not all, I'm going to say, but many of those I have met of my clan do adhere to the lowly road of the beast, as I've heard it called. Do not see why they do such a thing.
The beast?
Yes. The road of the beast, they call it. Don't know much about it, but they don't. From what I understand, from what the little I understand, is that it isn't they don't try to go too far down. They don't try to lose their connection to man entirely, but they forsake civilization. They forsake the ideals of like poetry and of art and culture, instead wanting to live lives of savagery.
That is unfortunate.
Yes, it very much is. Many gangrel, from what I've also heard, are a part of it, but they brought in my kind. I don't see why. I stay in touch with my humanity as much as I can. I do not wish to fall to that creature within me. Whatever it is, it will not take over.
Everyone has a different view of the beast, and personally, I think every beast is different for every kindred. Though some feel that mastery of the beast is succumbing to it. But in the end, as long as it's their own will and guiding their hands, I can only wish for the best for them.
Yes, it is. There are many ways that people view it. The way my sire taught it to me was that this view might be considered unpopular by some, but my opinion of the beast is that the gods that I worship have blessed us and cursed us with our current condition. I do not see us as vampires. I see us as something else. I believe that we should be caretakers of our humanity, of not just ours, but of humanity itself. We need to protect them. We have been given the opportunity to rise above normal humanity, but at the same time to protect it. It is a blessing and a curse in equal measure, and we must overcome the deficiencies of our condition.
I can very much agree with that notion, though I do wish to accept what we are. We are now in the higher state of being where, unfortunately, as humans, we fed off of not only the creatures of the earth, we also fed off the earth itself with its plants. Now we have simply raised above that, and now we must feed off of only the animals, and after that, our own people.
It is a sad thing, but the gods are testing us. I believe we can reach a divinity of sorts. We can rise above the beast. It is placed upon us to test us. You either fall or you rise. You see him kind of look off, like this. He's sort of looking off into the night sky, kind of up at the moon. I know my beast is closer to the surface on some nights. It is very hard for me to maintain control when the full moon rises. Gods are testing me for a reason. I will not succumb to the temptation of madness.
And I wish you the best of luck. We are human kindred, and I heard there are others that are similar in our case, though I've only heard rumors from other folks and read certain aspects in other books. Some that say that they are entwined with the spirit of the earth, which some would say that's a blasphemy in itself. Then there's others that can simply just bend the world into the image, like God Himself. But I've never met any beings of that nature.
I've heard tales of that. Those creatures of the earth, what do you call them? My mother always told me stories to stay out of the forest. The wee folk, that's it. I've always heard those stories she told me about the wee folk, the little fairies that would tempt you into the woods to take you away. It just made me want to go into the woods even more to see them with my very own eyes. I never did. But I know there are some stranger things of this earth.
Well, if history treats me correctly, I remember that the clan Ravnos say they were very much entwined with the Fae.
Ravnos. I've heard the name before. I know very little of them.
They are an interesting bunch. They're considered to be in many cases spiritualists, illusionists, gypsies, thieves, and vagabonds. They have a very odd sense of being. I hear the path involved much in the idea of transition. They don't believe in things being stationary. They don't believe in sense of ownership. They only believe that everything is in constant flux. But with also an understanding, they also very believe in sending out justice. Though I fear that the justice is rather selfish.
Hmm. Yes, did not know that. All I know is the gangrel despise them for some reason.
I believe it's past grievances.
Hmm. Ages-old rivalries lead to more bloodshed. The sins of the father carry on to the son.
Very much so. Well,
Continue.
I do know that the Ravnos are a very petty bunch, unfortunately. I think they feel that way due to their abilities.
Petty. How so?
If minor infractions such as just simply bumping into them. If they are not in a particular proper mood, they make you see things as you try to walk away.
Hmm.
And that can be simply a large bonfire or even something worse.
Tricksters, it sounds like to me.
I hear in some cases much more than that.
How so?
I have that the eldest of them can make reality and make imagination into reality. But I
I
hope
hope
I
not.
never have to meet a being such as that.
I would never want to meet something like that either. I'd pro. I'd probably take the Shamise over that.
Mm.
I've had some bad run-ins with them before.
I don't know much about the Shimeshai. I just know they are considered to be one of the most unfortunate of us, besides possibly the Setites.
Unfortunate. I'd say lowly, if anything else. I learned much of them from my sire and from the gangrel. From what I have heard, what the gangrels say about them. While gangrel are in touch with nature and the beasts, the Shamise are only in touch with nature. Well, the earth, as it were, their homelands. While the gangrel respect nature and they respect animals, the Shamise only respect their homeland, the earth of their homeland. They must, but they do not respect the animals that dwell there. They are flesh crafters, users of a power that's considered abhorrent by many. They can use it to craft their own ghouls and hellish abominations. Think of this, they could combine a bear with a stag and a human and make that thing move. It'd be a loyal and subservient servant.
I rather not.
They forsake humanity. They believe in transmogrification, I think the word is. Constant state of change. Somewhat like the Ravnos, actually. But their state of change is more of the physical and not the spiritual. They rule the Voivodate. That's where I come from. I would never suggest going there. The Voivodate is just filled with constant war, not only not just with our kind, but with humans. Mad barons fighting over faith and religion, and money, and land, and wealth, and all sorts of things. That's why I left. I did not want to see any more bloodshed. That, and I had run afoul of many of our own kind there. Not just the Shemise, but Malkavians as well.
That must have been interesting.
The moon cursed, I stay away from them as much as I can.
All I can really say of this is, I know the Shemeshe are what they are now, but my sire told me that they were not born. Well, I guess they were created that way. They say that, I forgot who started the line, but he pulled all his wickedness, all the evil within him into one being. And that's what started the whole entire madness of that clan.
Sounds like an idle old story to me.
It very much could be.
You're not, as I've always seen it, one is not born evil. They have to work towards it.
I can understand that.
Just because we were turned into this rebirth we go through. I'm out of character for a moment. I'm kind of hearing myself on your end a bit.
How about now?
Testing? It's better. All the... What was I talking about?
People not being born evil.
Oh yeah, that was it. Through this rebirth we go through, just because we are what we are now does not make us evil. It's just something that happens. Evil is subjective.
That is also true. But as we also know, the Malkavians, they are all cursed with the sense of madness. I have not heard of a Malkavian that is not cursed by it.
Oh yes, moon cursed. Wait, out of character for a moment. You said Shemise a few seconds ago? Now you switched to Malkavian. I'm a little confused.
Because you brought up the fact that nobody's born evil. In the case with the Malkavians, they are forced with the madness. Because you also brought up the Malkavian earlier.
All right, sorry about that. Sorry. I don't understand Malkavians. Seems that the moon has cursed them even more than it has me. I frenzy on nights of full moons. Malkavians seem to be in a constant state of madness because of him. And he looks up at the moon again. I think it's waxing currently. There was a Malkavian I once met in the Voivodate. Only one. Didn't know their name. She's a young-looking girl. I was treading through the forest one night with, heading back to my sire when I came upon a small clearing. I saw this individual just sort of standing there, staring up at a tree. I didn't pay much mind to this. I just tried to walk by. My obfuscate I was using, you wouldn't have noticed. His head snapped towards me, her head snapped towards me, and she ran up to me. She just started screaming something like, "The goddess, have you seen her? I've seen her. Her eyes, the goddess." I was petrified in fear, but I realized then I saw a pair of fangs and, of course, her pale skin. She dragged me towards the tree and pointed, and she had carved a face into the tree. I was very confused, and I had realized that this is a Malkavian. They didn't seem to be doing much wrong, though, so I was just going to try and slip away. When I looked closer for a moment, she'd carved little eye holes into the tree, and as I looked closer into them, there was a pair of human eyes in that tree. I then noticed right around the side of the tree there was the body of a dead woman. Her eyes had been torn out. At that point, I ran like the devil out of there. She followed behind me, screaming, "Why don't you accept her? Why don't you accept her?" Then she was gone. I fear the moon cursed. For good reason.
That is horrible.
It is a sad state of affairs. That, and we have Malkavian wandering around the city right now, completely naked and covered in blood, and no one can seem to find him. He was banned from Elysium, from what I also heard. They call him the Red Man. If you see him, I would inform Madeline. I just hope he doesn't get the idea to come out to my home.
Is he a danger or just a nuisance?
I don't know for certain. All I know is he was banned from Elysium. You usually have to do something violent to get banned from Elysium.
I'll keep that in mind.
Also, another thing you should know. About a week ago, there was an attempt on the Baron's life.
True? And he's very much upright right now. Like, who would ever do such a thing?
2 Arabs. Broken. I was there when it happened. At first we thought they were just thieves. They looked like they were looking for something to steal, but one of them immediately went after the Baron. Tried stabbing him. Baron killed one of them, and I helped wrangle the other back inside before he could get away. We sat him down and tied him to a chair, and he said that his God had sent them, that Allah was there to end our miserable lives.
Zealots. Boy, I understand that some of many religions would think of us as monsters, demons, but we are people nonetheless. But unfortunately, due to the zealotry, to possibly their own congregation, manipulation of outside forces, they just see us as whatever the people tell them to see us as.
Yes, it was sad. Madeline even offered the one that lived to. She offered to let him live if he would undergo a certain process. I've guessed schooling, but he refused, and he was killed for it. Voltage at this point, he grabs something off to his side. Appears to be 3 weapons. He sets 2 knives down on the table and a large sword. I will show you the picture of these. They appear to be Arab-style weapons. Oh, that is not working. Whoops. Here, let me try and do a screen share for everyone. Screen share. Cancel. Actually, wait. All right, and And let me pull this up now. These are the sort of knives that are on the table, and this is the sword. They were using these to try and harm our Baron.
Are they laced with anything? Are they laced?
No, but they did actually try and they threw this at him, and he picks up another thing that's at his side, and appears to be a mug with like cloth jammed into it, and he unclogs it, and this horrid like licorice scent begins pouring out, and he says, "This is what they threw on the Baron." Oh God! He closes it back up. We have no idea what it is. Smells horrible, though. I really need to get rid of it. But they had a large pot, a clay pot, and they threw it at him, and one of them seemed confused that it wasn't doing anything. From what I assume is whatever they thought we were, that might have been like an old folk like legend about throwing something on us to ward us away. I don't know. Ugh. It's horrid smelling, though. You also notice that the ghoul dogs or wolves, they are recoiling at the scent. It is very strong.
Yes. It is very strong. Do we not have any alchemists within the city to study it?
I think they found another. There was another part of it. I think they're looking into it. I think it's some local herb, though, from what I tried to figure it out as. Some licorice stuff. I don't know. Either way, though, and you notice that the ghoul wolves are kind of beginning to approach the table at this point, and they kind of go over to Volotej and kind of nudge his leg, and he looks down and says, "You two going to be good?" One of them whimpers. "Good," and he pets it on the head. "He is our guest. Do not be mean to him." And one of them sort of begins to walk over to you at this point, and not snarling, but just sort of eyeing you over, almost inquisitively.
Hello. And I got Alistair waves at it.
Kind of narrows his eyes, then sniffs you again. Kind of begins prodding, like nuzzling your leg a bit.
Will it be an animalkin and?
I'm gonna say don't roll for this one.
Okay.
Because Volotej, his connection to these two, they are his ghouls, so he's been able to calm them down. He says, "Pet him, Bjork. He's the friendliest one."
I try to scratch behind its ear, and
he likes it. he actually the wolf Bjork kind of starts acting like a dog, and he licks your hand a bit. The other one, Carl, stays though by Volotej, the one that recoiled at you. But no, Bjork sits near you. Says, "I thank you though again for the bread you brought. Oh, that reminds me. Let me go grab something. You might like this." And he walks inside his little his hut. And he comes back out, and this aroma of like smoked meat as he comes out with a large plate of steamed meat, and he sets it down. He starts cutting bits of it. 2 chunks for the dogs, actually, as they happily munch down onto it, but he leaves the rest for himself and yourself, and he offers some to you.
Oh, thank you kindly.
You're welcome.
I take a small piece and I try some of it.
It's a little gamey, but it has a few spices in it. You notice.
This, this is a different taste compared to most of my homeland's cooking, but it's good.
Oh, thank you. He starts eating it as well. You don't know if you don't think you've ever tasted this before.
Mm. Yes, I don't. I'm very much. I'm very much sure that this would be a. Well, I couldn't say what it was, but I guess equivalency of in your case, a hunter's meal.
Oh, it's elk.
Oh, that's like the deal, right?
Yes, yes. There's many that are nesting around here, but recently I've been having to cull the herd a bit. They're getting a little overpopulated. They've been eating much too many of the plants around here, so had to go on a bit of a cull. I never like having to take the lives of even animals, but it is the circle of life, and I am a part of that. And he starts munching down. The spice I used are local herbs that grow around here. The Bjork and Carl like it.
Well, if your wolves like it, then surely it's worth for them.
Yes. Carl, the other wolf, Carl, begins to approach you at this point, much more relaxed, and he doesn't nuzzle you like Bjork was, but he just sort of sits near you, kind of, let's say, it begrudgingly tolerating your presence.
Yeah. I'm sorry that you don't feel comfortable with me, but don't worry, I won't be here for too much longer, and you'll be rid of me. I say that in a kind of slightly sarcastic tone.
You kind of notice something. Almost you think that the wolf nodded his head at that, but it might just be because while you're eating the meat, his head is he's kind of following where your hand is going at this point. You're pretty sure it's that he didn't understand what you said, but
I'll have to take a piece of me in. I'll ask Voltage, if I may.
Go ahead.
And I put it near Carl's muzzle and see if he eats it.
Oh, he eats it. Yeah, definitely. And he's beginning to sort of warm up to you, and Voltage just looks and says, Carl's always been the most aggressive one. He always takes a lot of time to get used to others. He's very protective of Bjork.
Understandable. Are they brothers, cousins?
Brothers. My sire Levin, he always had a wolf with him. Sasha was her name. He always told me this. He told me this silly story about how this great wolf descends from an ancient peoples of an ancient race of man wolves or something like that. I never believed it, but she bore these two pups here, and she gave them to me. I don't believe the silly tale. Levin's, I'm just going to say it now, a bit of a lush.
Well, it could be a way to inspire you for further endeavors.
True. I think he should have made up a better story than the idea of the descendant of man wolves or something like that. Understand that we're supernatural creatures, but at the same time, I've never seen such a thing.
Well, the Tamir are supposed to be from mages, and have you met an actual mage before?
Kind of just looks at you like, what?
What? The Tamir? You never read about them?
Tremere. He kind of searches his mind for the word. He says, I think I've heard the name. Gangrel, I think, told me the name once. Don't know anything about them.
Well, they're relatively new to our condition. They, as far as my side told me, they are from a group of people known as mages, which are, she says, this reality benders.
Reality benders.
These mages took the time to join our ranks, and she didn't really give me the details of how they did such a thing. All I know is they are kindred of us, but they can cast what the layfolk would simply call spells. I say they're just using some variancy of their vitae to cause effects in the world.
So they're witches?
Well, depending on your culture aspect, they are witches, warlocks, sorcerers.
Magic. No, I do believe in spiritualism, but I've never seen that sort of thing with my own eyes. Might just be parlor tricks for all we know.
I don't know. The Ravnos have their illusion, so I wouldn't put it past that some vampires can do even more than that.
Till I see it with my own eyes. I wouldn't jump to conclusions.
But there are not many of them. All I know is my sire told me that she worked with a few. One of them is indebted to our clan, but it's just the one. And they don't talk very much, as far as she told me. They're very quiet and secretive.
Interesting. Well, I have no quarrel with them, so as long as they respect who I am, I will respect them.
Right.
Still, the idea of wizards and witches existing sounds like another tale.
So people talk about those vampires, and we very much exist.
True. But again, I've seen us.
But seeing is not always believing. Thus why the term faith exists. Have you actually seen God? Have you seen his angels? Have you seen Satan? Have you seen his demons? I very much think we haven't, or if we had, we'd hopefully tell somebody about it.
And I don't want to get into a religious debate.
No, it's perfectly fine.
I've had one too many of those before. I've always wanted to learn of other religion. As I see it, as long as something promotes peace, I think it should exist.
I very much agree with that notion.
It's just sad, these crusades that are going on.
That is a different matter. That, unfortunately, is passion probably followed by greed.
True. I mean, did I tell you about how I got punched by a member of the Templars?
Yes, you said you instigated him due to his crass nature.
Yes. Well, I had to do something. I had to cause a distraction that night. They were trying to get into the Elysium. I had to do something to get them to go away.
Well, if it's the protection of our kindred, then I guess that's perfectly fine. Just be happy that they didn't take offense to it for a longer period of time.
True. At this point, Voltage just sort of looks up at the sky, and he looks back at you and says, "Oh Christ, it's getting awfully late now. The sun might be coming up in a few hours. I still have a lot of work to do. I do thank you, though, for the gifts that you brought. I will have to make it up to you."
Oh, no need. It was very much an honor to do so.
Oh, no, I have to. I was always taught that I have to repay when somebody brings me something.
Well, I look very much forward to it.
Yes. At this point, Voltage gets up. He sort of very courteously bows to you, actually. He says, "Have a good night." As he at this point, actually, Bjork sort of starts licking your hand.
Still hungry, aren't you?
Carl, he kind of just looks at you and does this, turns around and walks off.
Hmm.
As Voltage begins cleaning up the mess they made from the meat.
Well, Voltage, I hope you a good rest in the months to day. Well, I hope we can see each other soon.
Oh, I hope so too. I need to actually set up a fence around here. I gotta keep the. I'm building a garden soon. I just need to keep the animals from getting in and trampling it.
Yes, very much so.
By the way, watch out for skunks. I believe there might be a few of them wandering around here.
I'll definitely keep that in mind. I don't much care for the smell myself.
Yes, I already smell like this.
I have not noticed.
Have a good night.
You too as well. Ciao. And Alistair gets up and just starts to saunter off back into the city.
And with that, we will end this broadcast.